Hello everybody, Здравствуйте. Welcome to my follow-up to the video special report about the Nato Riga conference last week. Today is December 12th, 2021, and I am recording from New Mexico, United States of America, and I am Ralph Schultz. Next you're going to see some small pictures taken from the Victory Day Parade this year, 2021, and just to point them out, this is you'll see President Putin there in the watching stand. Then we'll see some soldiers marching, leading with placards and flags. Then the women get to march, the women soldiers, and then some Armada tanks, which they could be considered the best in the world. I don't know. They're right up there, brand new designs and effectiveness brought to you from the Russian Federation. Okay. And before I begin, I want to remind you what I said in February of 2019. It's in my book. I swear it is. On page 67, underline, never underestimate Russia. You hear that, Russian officials? You hear that? And I also said on page 82, Russia will never allow Ukraine to be part of NATO and will never leave Crimea. And that's where we're at. We're at a sticking point now. Showdown. Russia is pushing back on the UN, not the UN, pardon me, NATO and the United States of America with their demands. This is astonishing in the West. So I've decided to write a script and I'm going to read it just like a newscaster. This is about 6 minutes. Are you ready? Can you take it? So, this parade's been held every May 9th. What's May 9th? It's when World War II officially ended, the Nazis officially surrendered, and it ended over 3 years of Russia pushing back the Nazi army and basically destroyed the army, the Wehrmacht, okay, on the Eastern Front. So since 1945, there's been this military parade honoring those who died in the Great Patriotic War. It's quite a thing to see. You can go on YouTube and go Victory Parade, pick a year, Red Square, 2021, 2018, you see it. Okay? So Russia is a strong country. Yeah? Nu, Russia, silnaya strana. Da? Da. It is. It's underestimated, in my opinion. All these Europeans are just ranting about the same thing. And I think they're deceiving themselves. Okay? So Biden and Blinken blinked. And the USA has agreed to consider Russian demands and is that thereby acknowledges that Russia does have some influence in the Ukraine, just by admitting that they're going to think about it. I understand there's all kinds of little committee meetings going on, figuring out a response to what the Russians said again here a couple days ago. The Ukraine no longer has 100% sovereignty to do whatever they want to do. They have to be included with other decisions. And as NATO Secretary General emotionally declared over and over again, Ukraine and NATO can do whatever they want. Russia has nothing to say about it. Well, that didn't last very long. And President Biden stated unequivocally that the USA will not send in ground troops or military force. I assume that includes missiles. If Russia invades Ukraine. Nor offensive weapons. There's defensive weapons going in and out of there, which can be somewhat offensive. There's anti-tank weapons. What else could Russia ask for? The playing field is wide open for a shock and awe attack, if needed. Hopefully it won't be. It'll last about 3 days before the overwhelmed and shocked Ukrainian army collapses, runs, and surrenders. Trust me. Okay? And sanctions, severe sanctions, bah. Russia's prepared for a lot of it. And I talked to my friend Ilya in Moscow. He's a 47-year-old attorney. He works with Germany a lot. He said the Russian people are used to suffering. They can handle it. if they're committed to the cause, unless they're softies in the West. Okay, and they've created their own SWIFT system, which is the international exchange system, to alleviate some of the pain when they can't do the normal foreign exchange trading. It'll hurt somewhat, but I don't think it's going to be so punitive. It's going to render them to their knees, like all these Western Europeans are saying. And Victoria Nuland, she's just gleeful. She can't wait to put these sanctions on Russia to bring it to her knees. They'll be subordinate to whatever the prevailing winds are in terms of U.S. policy and think tanks. Okay, the Nord Stream 2 pipeline is going in the Baltic. It's almost ready to open up to flow all this beautiful natural gas into Germany. 1/3 of their natural gas comes from Russia. They can't heat the country. They can't get it anywhere else. Now it's coming through it's still coming from Russia, but through the Ukraine, which gets a tax as it goes through. But you can't rely on the Ukraine now, and who knows what's going to happen there. This Nord Stream 2 is Germany must have it, and then there's other Northern European countries. You can't just say we're not going to do it because you're pouting because you didn't get your way, huh? How about that? So I'm also really make a point here. I'm an economist, at least I try to be, and Russia has economic strength, staying power. Okay, did you know Russia has total debt to gross domestic product? That's the size of the economy of only 15%. That's 1/5. Probably the lowest in the world of any large country. And over 500 billion in cash sovereign reserves in foreign exchange, different bonds, different countries. That's 25% of its nominal GDP of 2 trillion. That's gigantic. If we had 25% of 20 trillion, we'd have $6 trillion in cash in the treasury. We don't. We have IOUs, we have bonds, we print money. Sure, we can avail ourselves of it because we have a super credit and we can borrow endlessly. But it's not the same as having real hard cash. Russia has staying power. They can withstand some pretty hard storms, economic storms. So our balloon debt has gone from 20 trillion to 28 trillion because of this virus and trying to build back better in the United States. And that's 100 to 135% of GDP. In 1980s or so, it was about 35-40%. Europe's around 100%. They're up from the 50-60% range. Everybody's in the same boat. That makes you weaker, makes you think twice about spending. So we don't have this huge cash reserve. So Russia can weather an economic storm. And I read the U.S., this really shocked me. I read it, and I saw Biden signing the papers over the weekend, or maybe it was last week. I just saw it yesterday on YouTube channel. The U.S. is going to build naval ports in the Black Sea. Can you believe it? In Romania. And then one in the Sea of Azov. If you look at the map, that's a cramped-in area that Russia kind of controls now, but there's borders to both Ukraine and Russia. In a major city there called Mariupol, where they have some manufacturing there and fishing. This is going to be a mess. It's an attack. What if Russia put a huge base in Veracruz in the Gulf of New Mexico, a few hours sail or up to Houston? What would happen here? There'd be an outcry like you wouldn't believe. It's an aggressive behavior in the guise of helping Ukraine. I understand that, but it is aggressive behavior nonetheless, and a threat to Russia. They want that stuff out of there, period. Just made perfectly clear in the last few days. It's going to be a major issue. Things are building. Don't think this is going to blow over right away, okay? So what would you do if you were Joe Biden or you had supreme power over NATO? Putin cannot take the risk that this waiting and negotiating opening, which is what it is now, will vanish. This is an opportunity to try to take some control back over the Ukraine. He wants to return to past borders and a successful Ukraine and Russia working together as it used to, insulated from the chaos and uncertainty of Western policies. The new Russian declaration that came out insists, so here's the word, insists over and over again, NATO must not move eastward and cannot invite the Ukraine to join NATO. Or they're protecting it now. It's becoming an unofficial member as more and more weapons come in there in the West, more and more advisors. The United Kingdom, I believe, just put in 600 troops. They're tucked in there somewhere. You know, they're going to show that they're big boys. Huh? So I've begun to think all along, as President Putin has been wants to take back the eastern Ukraine. He'd rather have that than a legal piece of paper that says we'll never advance forward from the West. I think this is Novaya Russia, New Russia. New Russia is not that new, but it was coined that in the 1800s when Russia defeated the Ottoman Empire, which is now Turkey, and occupied that southern part of eastern Ukraine and straight south. Okay, and so President Putin has brought back Russia from a collapse in 1999 to a new powerful state and empire. So that area now is from the western border of Ukraine to the Dnieper River and south across several hundred miles from the Donetsk region, past the Sea of Azov, over past Crimea, all the way to Odessa and Moldova. You can kind of think of it as a crescent. There's a map here. I'm going to show up in a minute or two. You'll see it, okay? Take a good look at it. And I think he has had it with all these discussions, and the U.S. and these other nations don't respond to their requests for discussions to solve the problem, to bring back the Minsk agreements. What are we going to do with the Donbass? It's bloody over there. It's not just the Ukrainian artillery, army are shelling. They're not just passive. Trust me. Okay, it's going on both ways, but it's not initiated entirely, or I don't even think that much, by the Russian separatists. They're in the cities where all the civilians are, and they're getting hammered. Okay, so what I think is going to happen is there's going to be a ultimatum issued soon that Ukraine cannot become part of NATO. The U.S. has to withdraw westward all their weapons, dispense with these maneuvers. They're flying aircraft to the Russian border and having maneuvers in the air, and they put a small NATO fleet that sails right up to Crimea with English, Turkish, American high-tech destroyers. You got to push all this back, get away from the Russian boundaries. I don't think it's going to happen. Russia's going to issue an ultimatum, and there's going to be an attack. You don't put 190,000 troops surrounding this country just for the fun of it. I mean, it's. I know it's so unlikely that Biden and company and all the West would agree to this. It's just unlikely. So what's the alternative? Hopefully it'll be over fast without much bloodshed, and the government in Kiev will become unstable, and Russia will gain some sort of influence, a coalition government. Who knows? But we all might be better off. You know, our friends in Ukraine, they're going to be fine. They've suffered. Their economy is really down about 20% since 2013. It hasn't gotten better under the tutelage of the money from the International Monetary Fund. No way. So, the West, NATO, be looking aghast as Russia occupies the eastern part of that country. And they'll be helpless to do anything and defeated. Their ideas will be defeated. The USA will lose a fair amount of international prominence. The USA will have pushed Ukraine into a war it could never win. It could never win. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the party is over. Turn out the lights. До свидания.